channel and also on my Sandner Music Facebook page, simultaneously using this new eCam app, which is just great. And I hope you can hear me through the microphone. Actually, I didn't tell anybody I was doing this, so there's probably nobody listening right now, so I don't think. I'm going to, but if there is anybody listening, let me know, because I would appreciate knowing, and then I'm going to get the little chat window here. And I don't know how do I do my own, how do I send my own chat? That's what I'd like to know. So I'm just going to say hello. And see what happens. And there, I should have something pop up. Okay, there we go. So today I'm going to be talking about American popular music, especially the roots of American popular music and the blues, which actually came before, in a sense. They kind of happened about the same time, but the Great American Songbook came into more prominence probably in the 1930s, although there were some great songs written before that could fall into that classification. So, but I'm going to be talking about the blues, the roots of American popular music. The blues, people went crazy for the blues. In fact, the first blues record, 78 record that was popular, was called Crazy Blues. I forget the name of the artist, but you can look it up. It's probably public domain now. I should have pulled that up and played a little bit of it. I will do that in the future. So I'm doing this by the seat of my pants. But I think the blues is so important that I want to talk about the blues. And the classic blues recordings started in about 1917, right before 1920, and went till about 1933. And I'd say all the classic blues artists, I believe, were female. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. But Bessie Smith and Sippy Wallace and many others. There were just a whole slew of them. Of course, people know about Bessie Smith because Janis Joplin was a big fan of Bessie Smith and idolized her and patterned her style somewhat after the blues style of Bessie Smith. Then also we have in the early recordings in the 1920s, some of the great jazz musicians played on these blues recordings. Louis Armstrong, Duke Ellington, Earl Hines. Some of these guys can be found playing music behind the great classic blues singers. So I'm going to be going over one of those great songs that's in public domain. Because I don't want to get in trouble for copyright violation. And before I play the song, I'm going to give a little bit of a background on the song. And I'm going to separate a little bit the classic blues recordings from the blues element found in jazz. And that is a concept that was planted in my mind actually by Billy Mitchell, a great pianist from LA, who's a good friend of mine. And actually today is his birthday, so I don't know if he's watching this, but happy birthday, Billy Mitchell. I'm going to give you a call after this broadcast. But anyway, we'll talk about that later. But here's a song that was taught to me originally by the songwriter Graham Prince, who helped get me started in the business back in Detroit in the early 70s. And it's called "Tain't Nobody's Business." And he made a point to say, you don't go, "ain't nobody's business." It's apostrophe, "tain't nobody's business," if I do. So I did record this on my CD, Going to Chicago, with Marcus Belgrave playing trumpet. I'll put a link down below for if you want to find a way to listen to it or purchase it. If you search Steve Sandner or Steve Sandner Band on Spotify, you'll be able to listen to it. It is one of the great songs. Eric Clapton talked about it. I don't know if he ever recorded it. He said he felt an obligation to record it someday, I believe, in one of his interviews, but I don't think he ever did. He did record Nobody Knows You When You're Down and Out, which is another one of the great classics, and that's both of those songs were done by Bessie Smith and many others. So Tain't Nobody's Business. I'll give it a try, and I'm switching cameras on my great little new app here, eCam. Here we go. There. Now we're over here. And I can switch the mic easily. A little bit of noise. I'm going to iron out these kinks in the future. Don't worry. I know you're not worried. So, there ain't nothing I can do, nothing I can say, that folks don't criticize me. I'll do what I want to anyway, and I don't care what people say. I'm jazzing it up a little bit, so that doesn't sound very bluesy. Anyway, if I should take a notion to jump into the ocean, it's nobody's business if I do. If I go to church on Sunday, then tear right down on Monday, tain't nobody's business if I do. Me and my baby fuss and fight, next minute everything's alright. Ain't nobody's business if I do. Tain't. One day we got beans and bacon, next day there ain't nothing shaking. Tain't nobody's business if I do. If I should take a notion to jump into the ocean, tain't nobody's business if I do. Tain't nobody's business if I do. All right. Switching the mic back over. In the future, I'm going to have two mics. I can already tell you that. Working on this and getting back to this camera. So you might have noticed that, hey, that Steve, that really sounds like jazz. And anyway, that's not really the 12-bar classic blues form. Well, that's true. A lot of the old classic blues songs were not in the 12-bar blues form. And if you want to know more about the 12-bar blues form that's used a lot with jazz musicians and rock musicians, and blues, of course, blues musicians, I'll leave a link, and I have a video explaining what the 12-bar blues form is. And it could be helpful in getting you started in performing music. So 12-bar blues, I'll just go over it real fast. It's like, I'm going to go to a different key just for the contrast. So, three measures into the fourth measure, then you go to the fifth measure up to the 4 chord. A lot of you already know this. Then back to the 1 chord for 6 and 7, 8, 9 is the 5 chord, and then 10 is the 4 chord, and then back to the 1. Oh, when you sing the blues, you repeat the first line twice. Oh, So when you sing the blues, you repeat the first line twice, just like I just did. Then you've got the blues form in 12 bars. It's really, really nice. So that's the 12-bar blues form. Now, when you talk about the influence of the blues on American popular music, it was tremendous. You see some of these blues tunes go over into the big band era. You see singers like Anita O'Day singing blues, the white big band singers, and of course you have the band that played the blues. Woody Herman called his original band the band that played the blues, and he did some of there was a separation between the black music and the white music at the time, and breaking down the barriers at the time. Woody Herman did a lot of the blues songs of, say, Louis Jordan, who was very, very influential in American popular music. In fact, Chuck Berry said that one of his main influences was Louis Jordan. So you might want to look him up on YouTube. He has some great songs back in the 30s and especially in the 40s. So these are the blues. We have the classic blues singers up until the early 30s, and then the blues was influenced by American popular music in just some of the basic musicality. You call them licks or phrases, had blues elements in them. So you had my mama done told me, and that instead of having a major key melody like the key of C, and now the purple dust of twilight time, something like Stardust, they use the flatted seventh and use my mama done told me. They're using the dominant seventh as the root chord, so that's part of the blues element seeping into popular music. Then you have also the flatted third, 1, 2, 3, C scale. There's a C scale. Da 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 da. The third note of the scale, da da da, was flatted for the blues scale, if you will. I'm not a big fan of the blues scale, but if you must know, the blues scale is basically a pentatonic scale with the added F sharp as a passing note. So pentatonic, 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 pen. Add the F sharp, and you've got a blues scale. So this is getting into what I'm talking about as far as the blues element. You can take a song like I have to try to think of one that's in public domain. Well, the one I just did, we'll say that was actually in the classic blues repertoire. If I should take a notion to jump into the ocean, 'tain't nobody's business if I do. Whoa, whoa, if I should take a notion, even though the melody's on the major third, you can slip in the minor third a little bit there. So, if I should take a notion to jump into the ocean, you got the motion, you got the flatted third there again, and you got the flatted fifth to the ocean. You're improvising the melody a little bit, but you're injecting the blues element into this popular song. And I'm not going to use copyrighted songs, but you can do this with any song. So almost any song. It adds a little bit of that gospel feeling to the feeling of truth. You're feeling like you're hearing something it's got some expression to it. Then there are, of course, musicians, performers that aren't quite as influenced by the blues. I heard an interview with Bono, U2. When U2 came along, I was so into the blues. I could hardly think about or listen to or even perform on my gigs anything that wasn't orientated toward the blues. and here comes U2, and everybody's crazy about them. I go, what? This band really doesn't have that much influence of the blues, although they were very high quality, very creative. Um, Turned out to be a giant band, but I don't know. It was lost on me at the time when they first came out. I guess I appreciate them a little bit more because I do listen to music that's categorically not blues, you might say, sometimes. Uh, so interjecting the blues element. Another aspect of the blues element in your jazz performance is using it in turnarounds. So you'll play a song maybe with a non-blues melody, but when you get to the turnaround, you can add if you play a song like Emily, it's very non-bluesy. Doesn't sound like blues. I'm getting to it. Eventually, you could sort of glide into some blues licks, even in a melody like that, a non-blues melody like that. So the blues element, just in my opinion, I look for it. I listen to guys like piano players like Gene Harris. You hear it actually in the bebop musicians. They're interjecting blues licks. John Coltrane, I remember he interjected a lick of Grits Ain't Groceries from one of the great blues singers into one of his modern jazz pieces. So blues element, use it in your performance. Listen to some blues. Listen to how the artists do it. In fact, after bebop, even though bebop was influenced by the blues, you had post-bop. When Art Blakey came along, there was even, I hear, more of a blues influence in some of the post-bop compositions. You hear a song like Moanin'. I hope I don't get copyright violation for this. So you got out and out, you could almost call it a blues tune, the song Moanin', that was done by, I believe that was Art Blakey, if I'm not mistaken. Horace Silver's compositions have a lot of blues in them. You got that pentatonic scale in there. So there we have it, just a little bit of a dissertation about the blues. I try to use it in my playing, and it's fun. And I'm just a little bit of my past history. I've put together several blues bands in the past, and for some reason they just have a higher percentage of success. In Traverse City, we had a very authentic blues singer from Texas who moved to Traverse City, Michigan, and we put the TC Blues Band together. And one of the DJs found a cassette tape of one of our early gigs, and we ended up just packing the places every time we played. And here in Sedona, just recently, I got together with my friend Robin Miller and drummer Eddie Berrettini, and we didn't even rehearse. We just said, I know a lot of classic blues tunes. And Robin said, yeah, I know a lot of classic blues tunes. Even Eddie sang a couple of blues tunes. And we got together, and our first gig, everybody was curious. What is this new band? We've never seen these guys play together before, even though they might have known us individually. And they stayed, they danced, and it seemed like everybody that was there at the beginning stayed till the end, and we got a great reception. So I'm a big proponent of the blues. I'll put I was going to put a link on something anyway. Thank you for watching this broadcast. I'm going to be doing more in the future. I'm going to be refining it to hopefully more focused material. And thanks for watching, and thanks for listening. If you have any comments, leave them on YouTube or Facebook. And if there's any particular direction you want to go with some of this, I do want to talk about the Great American Songbook coming up, which is tricky because of copyrights. But I think, I'll just go there and see what happens. And thank you. Have a nice weekend.